The Galactic Council's massive space station orbited a dying star. Inside the Grand Chamber, Ambassador Zex of the Altarian species stood before hundreds of alien representatives. His forearms trembled as he delivered the terrible news. The Zircon Empire has conquered another 12 systems, Zex announced. His voice echoed through the translator devices. Our peaceful coalition cannot stop them. Their warriors are too strong, their ships too many. The council members whispered among themselves. The Zircon were ruthless conquerors who enslaved entire civilizations. For 50 years, the Galactic Council had tried diplomacy, sanctions, and defensive strategies. Nothing worked. Elder Vasha, a crystalline being from the Proxima system, floated forward. There is one option we have not tried, she said carefully. The humans. The chamber went silent. Everyone knew about humans, the crazy species from a Class 12 death world called Earth. Their planet had everything trying to kill them. Diseases, predators, natural disasters, extreme weather. Most species couldn't survive an hour on Earth without environmental suits. Humans are dangerous, someone protested. They fight among themselves constantly. Their history is full of wars. Exactly, Varsha replied. Who better to fight the Zircon and a species that treats war as a normal Tuesday? After heated debate, the council voted. The decision was close, but desperation won. Ambassador Zex would travel to Earth with a small delegation to ask for help. The journey took 3 months. When their ship entered Earth's solar system, the alien crew grew nervous. They detected thousands of satellites, space stations, and defensive platforms around Earth. Humans had only discovered faster-than-light travel 20 years ago, but they'd militarized their system like veterans. Zex's ship landed at the United Nations Space Command Headquarters in Geneva. General Sarah Chun met them at the landing pad. She was tall for a human female, with sharp eyes that seemed to analyze everything. Behind her stood Colonel Park Jung-hoon and Major Petrova, both wearing military uniforms that looked uncomfortably practical. Ambassador Zex, Sarah said, extending her hand. Zex carefully shook it, surprised by the grip strength. We received your transmission. You need military assistance? In the meeting room, Zex explained the situation. He showed holographic images of Zircon warriors, 8-foot-tall reptilian beings with natural armor plating and 4 arms. Their ships were massive dreadnoughts that had never lost a battle. The Zircon evolved on a death world too, Zex explained. But not like Earth. Their planet had large predators and toxic plants. Earth has ... everything. Microscopic killers, changing climates, tectonic activity, radiation zones. You humans are the only Deathworlders we know who mastered both microscopic and macroscopic threats. Sarah exchanged glances with Jung-hoon. What exactly are you asking for? Military advisors, trainers, maybe a few volunteer units, Zex said hopefully. We can offer technology trades, resource rights. Sarah leaned back in her chair. Ambassador, I need to make some calls. But I think Earth can do better than a few volunteers. 2 hours later, Zex sat in shock as Sarah returned with news. The UN Security Council held an emergency vote, she announced. Humanity will deploy the Third Fleet, 12 battleships, 30 cruisers, and 50,000 Marines. We're also sending our Special Forces units, the Deathworld Rangers. 50,000? Zex's translator glitched from his emotional spike. We only asked for advisors. Jung-hoon grinned. Ambassador, you asked humanity for help against bullies who enslave entire civilizations. We don't do things halfway. Besides, our soldiers are getting bored. Peace on Earth has lasted almost 3 whole years. That's a record for us. When can your forces be ready? Zex asked. Ships launch in 72 hours, Sarah replied. We've been preparing for something like this. Every human grows up hearing stories about Earth's history. the World Wars, the Mars Rebellion, the Jupiter conflict. We learned that sometimes, to protect peace, you need warriors who understand war. As Zex prepared to leave, he watched human workers loading weapons onto massive warships. The weapons looked primitive compared to Galactic Council technology, but there was something unsettling about their simple effectiveness. Kinetic weapons, nuclear missiles, and something called antimatter bombs that made his translator refuse to explain further. One more thing, Sarah called out as Zex boarded his ship. Tell the Zircon that Earth is coming. Sometimes, the best way to end a war is to make sure everyone knows you're very, very good at it. Asterisk, the human fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Kepler 442 system, where the Zircon had just conquered another peaceful world. Admiral Kim Min-jun stood on the bridge of the UNS Prometheus, Earth's flagship. Around him, his crew worked with calm efficiency that unnerved the Galactic Council observers. "Sir, we're detecting 90 Zircon vessels," reported Lieutenant C.O. Yeon from the tactical station. "They're sending demands for our surrender." Min-jun smiled slightly. "Put them on screen." The holographic display showed Commander Zarkonian of the Zircon Empire. The massive reptilian warrior had scarred scales and teeth like daggers. His forearms held different weapons. "Unknown vessels, you dare enter Zircon space? Surrender now or be destroyed." Zarkonian roared. "Commander Zarkonian," Min-jun said calmly, "I'm Admiral Kim Min-jun of Earth. You're occupying a sovereign system. You have 1 hour to withdraw." The Zircon commander laughed, a harsh sound like grinding metal. "Earth, the newcomers? Your 12 ships against our 90? You humans are more foolish than the reports claimed." "Actually," Min-jun replied, checking his watch, 59 minutes now. The transmission cut off. On the bridge, Ambassador Zex wrung his forehands nervously. "Admiral, perhaps we should wait for reinforcements. The Zircon have never lost a space battle. Neither have we," C.O. Yan said quietly. "Not a real one, anyway." Min-jun turned to his crew. "Battle stations. Prep the Marines for boarding actions. And someone wake up the Deathworld Rangers. Tell them it's party time." Deep in the ship, Major Alex Chun, Sarah's younger brother, assembled his Rangers. These weren't ordinary soldiers. Every Ranger had survived training in Earth's worst environments: the Amazon rainforest, the Sahara Desert, the Arctic tundra, and Australia, which even other humans considered insanely dangerous. "Listen up," Alex shouted. "The Zircon think they're tough because they're big and strong, but they've never fought humans. They don't know about persistence hunting. They don't know about psychological warfare. They definitely don't know about what we call aggressive negotiations." Sergeant Maria Rodriguez checked her equipment. Unlike the energy weapons favored by most galactic civilizations, humans still used kinetic weapons, bullets, explosives, and good old-fashioned sharp objects. "Sir, the Zircon have natural armor. Energy weapons barely scratch them. That's why we're using armor-piercing rounds," Alex replied. "And if those don't work, we've got Plan B." "What's Plan B?" asked Private Johnson, a new recruit. Rodriguez grinned. "We get creative. Humans are really good at that." Back on the bridge, the hour was almost up. The Zircon fleet had moved into attack formation, confident in their numerical superiority. "Admiral," Zex pleaded, "please reconsider. The Council will understand if you withdraw." Min-jun didn't answer. Instead, he nodded to C.O. Yeon. "Execute Operation Persistence." What happened next became legend in Galactic Council history. The human ships didn't engage in the traditional synchronized fleet battle that the Zircon expected. Instead, they scattered, moving in seemingly random patterns. The Prometheus launched fighters, not the sleek, energy-based craft of other species, but angular, heavily armored bombers carrying nuclear payloads. The Zircon shields, designed for energy weapons, offered little protection against simple atomic explosions. Meanwhile, the human cruisers used hit-and-run tactics, appearing just long enough to launch kinetic strikes before jumping to hyperspace. The Zircon couldn't adapt to the chaotic strategy. They're not following any known battle doctrine. Zarkonian raged from his command ship. What kind of warfare is this? His second-in-command was studying the human attacks. Sir, they're not trying to destroy us outright. They're wearing us down? It was true. The humans weren't going for quick kills. They were damaging engines, taking out weapon systems, crippling ships without destroying them. It was a tactic from Earth's ancient history, persistence hunting, where humans would chase prey until it collapsed from exhaustion. After 6 hours of constant harassment, the Zircon fleet was in disarray. 30 ships were disabled, their crews exhausted from constant alerts and repairs. That's when the real attack began. All ships, Phase 2, Minjun ordered. Marines, you're clear for boarding. Dozens of boarding pods launched from the human vessels. The Zircon, already tired and confused, couldn't mount an effective defense. Human Marines, led by the Deathworld Rangers, stormed onto enemy ships. The Zircon warriors, despite their size and strength, weren't prepared for human combat tactics. Humans used smoke grenades, flashbangs, and something called tear gas that made even the Zircon's tough respiratory systems fail. They fought in coordinated teams, covering each other, using tactics refined through thousands of years of warfare. But the most unsettling thing was how the humans fought, with a controlled violence that seemed almost casual. Asterisk. Inside the Zircon battleship Inevitable Victory, Major Alex Chun and his Rangers moved through the corridors like shadows. The Zircon warriors, each standing 8 feet tall with natural armor plating, should have had every advantage in close combat. They were wrong. Contact 30 meters, whispered Corporal Davies through the com. The team immediately scattered into cover positions they had, memorized from the ship's leaked schematics. 3 Zircon warriors rounded the corner, their plasma rifles ready. Before they could react, the humans struck. Not with direct assault, but with something far worse, psychological warfare. The lights in the corridor suddenly went out. Emergency lighting kicked in, casting everything in a dim red glow. Then came the sound, a low rhythmic thumping that seemed to come from everywhere. It was just recorded human heartbeats, amplified and slowed down. But to the Zircon, it sounded like some massive predator approaching. What is that sound? One Zircon warrior hissed, his 4 arms tightening on his weapons. That's when the humans attacked. They came from above, having crawled through the ventilation systems, spaces the Zircon thought too small for any sapient being to use. Humans, who evolved from creatures that climbed trees and hid in caves, had no such limitations. Alex dropped onto the lead Zircon's shoulders, using a simple chokehold. The warrior's natural armor didn't protect the soft spots humans had already identified: joints, neck, eyes. Within seconds, all 3 Zircon were unconscious, taken down by beings half their size. Clear, Alex reported. Rodriguez, how's your team? We've got the engine room, Rodriguez replied. You should see these guys' faces when we told them we brought nuclear charges. They didn't believe anyone would be crazy enough to bring atomics onto a ship they're currently inside. Are we? Davies asked nervously. Of course not, Rodriguez laughed. They're just smoke grenades with radiation stickers. But the Zircon don't know that. On the bridge of the Inevitable Victory, Commander Zarkonian received reports that made no sense. Humans were everywhere and nowhere. They'd appear, cause chaos, and vanish. They used the ship's own systems against the crew, changing gravity settings, altering life support to make areas uncomfortably cold or hot, playing strange music over the communication systems. They're not trying to kill us, his lieutenant reported. confused. There, toying with us? Zarkonian slammed his fist on the console. Impossible. We are Zircon. We have conquered 100 species. That's when Major Alex Chun walked onto the bridge, alone, unarmed. His Zircon warriors immediately pointed their weapons at him. Commander Zarkonian, Alex said casually, as if he wasn't surrounded by hostile aliens twice his size. I'm here to accept your surrender. You dare, Zarkonian began, but Alex interrupted. Your ship is under our control. We've disabled your weapons, engines, and communications. Your crew is either unconscious or very confused. You can surrender, or ... double quotes. Alex smiled, and somehow that was more terrifying than any threat. We can continue playing? Zarkonian snarled. This is war. No, Alex corrected. War is what happens when humans get serious. This is Tuesday afternoon training. You see, Commander, you made a mistake. You evolved on a death world with big, obvious threats. We evolved on one where everything tries to kill you. The tiny insects that carry disease. The microscopic organisms in water. The food that might be poisonous. Even our own bodies can turn against us with cancer or autoimmune diseases. Alex walked closer, still seemingly unconcerned about the weapons pointed at him. We learned to be paranoid. We learned to be creative. We learned that the most dangerous predator isn't the biggest or strongest. It's the smartest. And, Commander, humans got very, very smart. Meanwhile, on other Zircon ships, similar scenes played out. The humans used tactics no military manual covered. They put soap on corridor floors to make them slippery. They released earth insects into the ships, harmless ones, but the psychological effect of thousands of beetles suddenly appearing was devastating. They hacked entertainment systems to play human horror movies on every screen. Admiral Min Jun watched from the Prometheus as one by one Zircon ships signaled surrender. Ambassador Zex, are you watching this? Zex was indeed watching, his 4 eyes wide with amazement. How? How are your soldiers doing this? The Zircon are the galaxy's finest warriors. That's the difference, Min Jun explained. The Zircon are warriors. Humans are soldiers. Warriors seek glory in battle. Soldiers seek to win by any means necessary. Even if those means involve psychological warfare, misdirection, and what we call shenanigans. Shenanigans? It roughly translates to creative chaos with a purpose. Asterisk news of the Kepler 442 victory spread across the galaxy like wildfire. For the first time in 50 years, someone had defeated a Zircon fleet. Not just defeated, humiliated them without destroying a single ship or killing a single warrior dot in the Galactic Council chambers. Representatives watched the battlefield recordings in stunned silence. The humans had turned warfare into something unrecognizable. Where other species saw honor and tradition, humans saw opportunities for innovation. On Earth, General Sarah Chun received a priority transmission from the Zircon High Command. The Supreme Leader, Emperor Karthresh himself, appeared on the screen. Unlike Zarkonian, the Emperor was ancient, his scales bearing thousands of battle scars. General Chun, the Emperor spoke slowly, his voice carrying the weight of centuries. Your forces have captured 60 of my ships using ... tricks. Deception. There is no honor in such tactics. Sarah leaned forward. With respect, Emperor, there's no honor in enslaving entire civilizations either. We didn't start this war. We're just finishing it. You think you've won? Karthresh laughed bitterly. I command 10,000 ships. You've defeated 90. Actually, Sarah said, pulling up a holographic display, we've been busy. While you were focused on Kepler 442, human special forces have been visiting your supply depots. The display showed dozens of Zircon supply stations across the galaxy. One by one, status lights turned red. That's impossible. Carthresh roared. Those stations are in the heart of our territory. Colonel Park Jung-hoon appeared on screen next to Sarah. Emperor, let me introduce you to a human concept called guerrilla warfare. Small teams, moving fast, hitting where you don't expect. Your warriors are trained to fight battles. Our soldiers are trained to win wars. The truth was even more audacious than the Zircon imagined. Human infiltration teams, led by soldiers like Sergeant Maria Rodriguez, had spent weeks sneaking onto Zircon stations. They didn't destroy them. That would have been too obvious. Instead, they contaminated food supplies with mild laxatives, reprogrammed maintenance robots to work at half speed, and changed all the computer interfaces to require unnecessary confirmation clicks. The Zircon Empire, built on efficiency and military might, began to crumble from within. Warriors couldn't fight effectively when they were sick. Ships couldn't deploy when their systems were glitchy. Morale plummeted as soldiers realized they were facing an enemy that didn't follow any rules they understood. The planet Zarian Prime, a Zircon military academy. Major Alex Chun's Rangers performed their masterpiece. They infiltrated the academy at night and didn't hurt anyone. Instead, they rearranged everything. Weapons in the kitchen, food in the armory, training equipment in the sleeping quarters. They also left behind something truly terrifying: rubber ducks. Thousands of small, yellow earth toys appeared everywhere. In storage crates, in personal lockers, in the commanding officer's coffee equivalent. The psychological impact was devastating. If humans could sneak rubber ducks into the most secure military facility in the Zircon Empire, what else could they do? Back in the Galactic Council, Ambassador Zex met with other representatives. The Altarian was fielding dozens of questions about humanity. Are all humans like this? Asked a worried representative from the Centauri Collective. From what I understand, Zex replied carefully, we're seeing their military at play. They consider this restraint. Restraint? Several voices exclaimed at once. Elder Varsha floated forward. I've been studying human history. In their World War II, a human nation dropped atomic weapons on cities. In their Cold War, they built enough nuclear weapons to destroy their planets several times over. The fact that they're using non-lethal tactics means they're being nice. The room went very quiet. Meanwhile, Emperor Carthresh faced a crisis. His empire of fear was collapsing because humans had introduced something worse than fear: humiliation and confusion. Zircon worlds that had been conquered started rebelling, inspired by humanity's success. Emperor, his advisor whispered, the humans have sent another message. On screen, Admiral Min-jun appeared. Behind him stood hundreds of human soldiers, but they weren't in battle formation. They were relaxed, some even laughing and sharing what looked like food. Emperor Carthresh, Min-jun said formally, Earth proposes a peace conference. Full withdrawal from all conquered systems. Release of all enslaved species. In return, we'll stop the psychological operations and help you transition to peaceful coexistence. And if I refuse? Carthresh asked, though his voice had lost its earlier confidence. Min-jun's expression grew serious. Then we stopped playing nice. Earth has weapons we haven't used since we banned them for being too cruel. Biological weapons. Chemical weapons. Cyber weapons that don't just disrupt, they destroy. You've seen what human soldiers do when they're having fun. Do you really want to see what happens when we get serious? The peace conference was held on neutral ground, a space station orbiting a binary star system. Emperor Carthresh arrived with a small delegation, his massive frame somehow seeming smaller than before. Across from him sat the human delegation. General Sarah Chun, Admiral Min-jun, and Major Alex Chun, along with Ambassador Zex, representing the Galactic Council. Before we begin, Karthresh said slowly. I must know something. Your species could have destroyed us. Why didn't you? Sarah exchanged glances with her colleagues. Emperor, humans have a saying, with great power comes great responsibility. We've learned from our own bloody history. Genocide and total destruction create more problems than they solve. We prefer to make friends out of former enemies. Friends? Karthresh seemed to struggle with the concept. After everything? Germany and Japan were once America's deadliest enemies, Minjun explained. Now they're among Earth's closest allies. Humans have short memories for grudges when there's peace to be built. The negotiations lasted 3 days. The Zircon agreed to full withdrawal from conquered systems and the release of all enslaved species. In return, humans offered something unexpected, assistance. Your empire is built on military might, Alex said, spreading out star charts. But you have incredible logistics networks, advanced technology, and disciplined population. Imagine using that for trade instead of conquest. Co Yan, who had been quiet until now, added, Earth companies are very interested in Zircon engineering. Your ships are incredibly durable. With modifications, they'd make excellent cargo vessels and exploration ships. You want to do business with us? Karthresh's translator struggled with the concept. Why not? Sarah shrugged. Earth needs allies in the galaxy. You need a new purpose. It's win-win. 6 months later, the galaxy looked very different. Former Zircon warriors worked alongside human engineers, converting warships into trade vessels. The Deathworld Rangers had become legend, but instead of being feared, they were requested. When pirates threatened shipping lanes or slavers appeared in distant systems, the call went out. Send the humans. Rodriguez, promoted to lieutenant, led a mixed unit of humans and other species, including some reformed Zircon warriors. They called themselves the Galactic Peacekeepers, though everyone else called them those crazy Deathworlders. On a former Zircon slave world, now free, Alex stood with Commander Zarkonian, who had become an unlikely ally. They watched as human agricultural experts taught locals how to grow earth crops that could survive in harsh conditions. I still don't understand humans, Zarkonian admitted. You defeated us with tricks and toys. You could have ruled the galaxy through fear. Instead, you're teaching farming? Alex laughed. That's because you still think like a warrior. Humans think like survivors. You know what's more powerful than fear? Hope. Give people hope, show them a better way, and they'll follow you anywhere. The rubber ducks, Zarkonian said suddenly. What was their purpose? Psychological warfare? Honestly? Alex grinned. Davies thought it would be funny. Humans do things just for laughs sometimes. Keeps life interesting. In the Galactic Council, humanity's representative seat had been upgraded to permanent member status. Earth had become the galaxy's mediator, the species everyone called when things got complicated. Not because humans were the strongest or smartest, but because they were the most creatively unpredictable. Ambassador Zex gave his final report to the Council. The human intervention has changed everything. Piracy is down 90%. Trade is up 200%. Former enemy species are working together. They've introduced concepts like mutual defense pacts and economic partnerships, and something called pizza that every species seems to enjoy. What about their military? Someone asked nervously. Are they still expanding it? Yes and no, Zex replied. They're training other species in their tactics, but they call it sharing knowledge. They've established something called the Deathworld Academy, where beings from any planet can learn human survival tactics. The graduation rate is 3%, but those who make it are effectively unkillable. Elder Varsha had the last word. We asked for help, expecting weapons and soldiers. Instead, humanity gave us something more valuable. They showed us that strength comes in many forms. Sometimes the best warriors are the ones who know when not to fight. On Earth, in a small bar in Geneva, Sarah, Min-June, and Alex raised their glasses in a toast. To the Deathworld Rangers, Sarah said. To creative chaos, Min-June added. To rubber ducks. Alex laughed as they drank. Their communication devices lit up with a new message. Another species needed help. Another crisis to solve. Another opportunity to show the galaxy that humans, the crazy Deathworlders from Earth, were exactly the friends you wanted when things got tough. The age of human expansion had begun, not through conquest, but through something far more powerful. Aggressive friendship backed by the implicit threat of creative chaos. The end? Asterisk.